Hey everybody, it's David R. Becker back. I'm back from Winona. And this week we are doing a one color study. In my newsletter I suggested that in the next 4 weeks, and actually not the next 4 weeks, the next 5 weeks, we are going to be starting with one color, and then we're going to go to 2 color, 3 color, 4 color, full color. And so it's going to be a fun time, and I already did this painting this afternoon, and interesting. That's all I got to say. Let's see, I'm going to just show you right here. So this is what we were doing, a one color study. And I want to tell you one thing about when you're doing the one color study. If you use, let's say, a lighter blue, you're allowed to use black to darken that color. And just so I let you know that, so if you want a color that's not that dark, and I didn't mention that in the newsletter, and if you want to take a color like a red that's really not that dark, and then add black to it, that's fine. So that doesn't add to the color. It adds to the darkness and the lightness of it. And also white, if you want to use white with a color, that's fine too. All right, so let me just go to show you my website for all the newcomers here. I still haven't fixed my link. I can't get on the link on here, but it's BeckerArt.net or davidartbecker.com to find out everything about what I'm doing and where I'm going and all that kind of stuff. So just go to there. My supplies I'm using tonight are my Holbein watercolors, my let's see what we got. The Holbein colors, we got the brushes and masking fluid and Stonehenge aqua paper is what we're using today. We're using a block, but that's the same paper as just in a block this today. And so for the value study, let's go into the value study. So this is a scene from Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, and it's a scene I took this shot, and I did do a couple of things that I changed on this, and nothing that was really that important, but I took this little lady here on top, the angel, and I did is I turned her around. She was actually facing the other direction, looking off the picture, and so I thought, you know what, I'm going to have you guys go into the picture, make it look like you're going into the picture. And this light post was right here. So it's all crammed in right in the middle of the picture, and so I moved it over here, something I did in Photoshop. And for all this water splashing up, this fountain is kind of strange because the fountain itself doesn't drip as much as like most fountains do. They drip from here and here downwards. What this does is all this ring right here just splashes the water up on top here, so the water is all coming around. And so what I did this afternoon, some of us did too much water, and we had water everywhere. So what you're going to do is we are going to do some of the more of the splashing, and I'll show you how we did this. There's many different ways you can do this splashing. But again, this is a one color study, and I'm going to make it probably a brown, or actually I'm going to do a terracotta with black, and that will just darken my terracotta color a little bit and make it kind of a brown. All right, so let's go to our tabletop, and tonight I left my beers in Winona. I had 2 extra beers I was going to take with, but I left them there. So next time I go back to Winona, Minnesota, I will try to get them. I'm sure that you guys can drink them, or you guys are there. And so tonight, I just opened it up already because I had a coughing attack right before I went on. And so tonight we're doing a cider, a peach cider, a Virtue peach cider. So not so much a beer, but a cider. And it was very refreshing, and it got me to stop coughing. So cheers, everybody. Cheers, cheers, cheers. Well, that's good for a cider. Very good for cider. It's a peach cider. And again, not a beer, a cider. Very good. Virtue cider. I give that a 10. It's very good. For cider again. All right, and so let's see who's all here this week. We got Marianne, we got Barbara, we got Pamela, Tina, Monica, Phil, Barbie. Hey everybody. So what we're going to do is, let's see. So this is what I did this afternoon. And to make these the watermarks, I did 2 things. Some people use masking fluid. I don't like using masking fluid. For one, is that I'd have to put every one of those little dots in there, and you know me, I'm not a big photorealism type of guy, and I like to do things fast. And to me, to put all the masking fluid in there to every one of those dots. And if you look at this picture right up here, and look at how many dots there would be. And so you could spatter it, I guess, but then you wouldn't get the certain look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using a utility knife. A utility knife, and you put it on. And if you just scratch it into the paper, basically like this, and you have to go pretty hard, but it hits across the rough paper, and it makes you little dots. So That's how all these were made, except for some of these I spattered. So I'll spatter white paint. So we'll go with that. And just before we get started, I just want to tell you that next week I am heading down to Cayuga, actually down to North Carolina, and I will be at the Cayuga Water Media Workshop. And I will be there, and we will not have a newsletter, and we will not have a Thursday night next week, and we'll do a 2-color the following week. If you want to do another 1-color next week and keep yourself occupied, but for anybody who's going to Cayuga, to the camp, I feel like I'm going to an art camp, so that's going to be great. Oh, I hope I don't have another coughing attack. Excuse me. Cheers, 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 everybody. All right, so we're going to get started. And when you're using 1 color, it's going to be very simple. You don't have to worry about what you're going into and what you want to kind of put your brush into. I'm going to be using this color right here, which is a reddish terracotta type of color. Holbein calls it light red. And I'll just show you, and I should write be my palette, but this is my new palette from last week. I put all my old colors from my old palette back into this new palette, and now it's actually in my old palette. It looks like an old palette, right? So I'm just going to wipe off what I did last week. And then again, I was in Winona, Minnesota last week and did the workshop, and that was a very nice workshop. If you want me to come to your neck of the woods, just let me know. If you're in our club, or if you can get like about 10 or so people together, and I can arrange things. I can come down to your art studio. And so here we go. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to show you the color I'm using. So this is the kind of color I'm using. It's kind of a brownish terracotta color, orangey, burnt orange kind of, or terracotta. And I'm going to use black with it, and so it'll kind of make a brown. So here's my black. I use peach black, and so I'm just going to use that as my 1 color. No, again, it's really 2 colors, but black I'm just going to use to lighten and darken. And again, if you want to use white, that's fine too, to lighten your color. So if I want this color light, I can go this way and use white, and that'll just lighten it. Because I'm using the white of the paper too, so that doesn't count really. The white of the paper and the black dark of a color, that doesn't count as a color. And so I want you not to have to think about the color, just think about the values. And one thing I did that I didn't want to do or need to do on this one is make this back here a little bit darker. All right, and so that when I do scratching, you see the water more. And same thing back here. A lot of that I don't see the water splashing up. So, and this is again Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, and this is my image. I took this image myself. So again, if you want to use it, it's more than fine. All right, and so this is the sky. Even though the sky is not going to be blue, I still want to give some little waves to it. And then I know a couple people, after you get done and you feel like you want to put blue in there, go ahead and put blue in. That's okay. But we're trying to just do it from a 1-color study. Trying to do a 1-color study. So I'm going to take my big brush here. Hey, Carol. Hey. Oh, I got my glasses on. Kathy, Arnie, and Carol, welcome. So here we go. So we're going to wet the background. And go right over the angel. And I don't know the story of this fountain in Lake Geneva, but we've been there many times, and they have an art fair like usually in the fall or even actually summer fall that a lot of people go to here, and they set up their stuff. And so again, so back here I'm going to use a little bit of this reddish color. And I'm not thinking about color at all, so don't even think about color. You don't need to think about color on this painting. You think about values. Values only. Values only is the only thing I think about. And also how you're applying the pigment and what you're trying to get with the pigment. And so I'm just going to go right through. If this were, actually the sun would be right back here, so I'm going to make this really light right here. So I make the sun right behind her shining. So if this was a colored version of this, then I would put the bright sun and make her right there orange, kind of orange, like it was just glowing right there. We did that on a couple of scenes already, and you guys remember that, where we do optical scatter. That's something I learned from Karl Bretsky in his workshop in Grand Marais last year, and very good class that I took from him. Learned a lot about color in the skies, and and what happens in the evening when the suns go down. And so let the pigment do its thing, and maybe I get a little bit crazier with the sky this time, but that's okay. And I'm going to put a little bit more dark down here again so you can see more of the water. So I'm going to make it a little bit more, I can see the water. And maybe these lights can be even on. You know, there's those two lights, maybe I can put them on too by putting white paint or something on them. Go right into the windows here. There's windows in this building. It's all dark, but you can just put some of the color in there and that will be fine. And since I'm going and putting so much water down, oh, I just went into red. It's going to be a habit. I know you're going to try to go into other colors, but try not to. And actually you can just use pure black too. If you just want to make grays, make this a gray scene, you can do that too. It's up to you. Just one color. We had some people just do it in blue, and that was really nice too. Just do the whole thing in blue, and again, use black if you need the darkness. Because if you're using like a lighter blue, like an ultramarine, you can't get a black. It can't go far. So I'm going to allow you to go all the way to dark, because it's all about how dark you can get this, how following the values. And this is like silhouetted, so I want you to get that dark in there. Hello, Connie from Iowa. Hey, Maria from Georgia. Boy, you guys are from all over here. We got Massachusetts. Holy smokes, Minnesota. Okay, Kathy. And let's see here. All right, so we got this going here. Let me try some more of this side. This side was very good. And there we go. Definitely a 10. Very good cider. Boy, it's very refreshing. I'm going to finish that in no time. Okay, so now down here, I'm going to go right, and this is the background. Back there in Lake Geneva, there's the houses back there. And actually, right over on this side, in the picture, there's a library. There's a library right on Lake Geneva, right on the shore. It's an amazing library that you can go right in a library and be right on the lakefront. Probably the only lakefront library I know of. So we're going to go back here and put the shoreline way back there. And again, I'm going to make this a little bit darker here so I can see the water on the fountain a little bit better. I'm still going to make the background maybe a little bit warmer because I'm using a warm color. But again, don't think about that so much. Just think about the one value and getting the right values in the picture. That's more important than anything. I don't want you to think about if warm background, cool foreground, because you can't do that. You just think of this as doing a value study. A lot of you are from wet, gloomy Chicago. Yes, I know. I was there yesterday dropping off a painting in downtown Chicago on Randolph, right by the highway. And I was going to stop and take a bunch of pictures because it was raining yesterday. I think it's been raining 3 days straight and it has not stopped. Literally, it has not stopped at all. Even where I'm living here, upper 50 miles away north of Chicago. So if any of you know, I live 50 miles north of Chicago. I used to go into the city every day, back when I was in advertising. And so now we're going to just do this dark here. Again, these are soft edges now because this is wet, and that's fine because we're just going to do a lot of blasting of white and a lot of this, not white, the paper's going to be white, but where this is, where the water's going to be, we're just going to keep the point of the paper and we're going to scrape out back to the paper. And so right now we're just pretty much getting the fountain. And make this all kind of, you don't have to make this really tight. You don't have to make the lines really tight because there's so much happening right here. And I was thinking that some people could even use salt. Maybe try to use salt for the look of the, because it's basically just the texture of the light against the dark. And so I'm going to try to do as much of that texture as I can in the beginning here, with just like spattering and being very loose and wet into wet. And another thing I'll do is after I put this down, after I put these colors down, I will sprinkle it with a little bit of water, where you could maybe also use salt. Salt gives a effect of like separating the paper from the pigment. And so here you get a little brighter with the color. Then there's a reflection in the water. And then this is kind of like a little bit of a look down here for the water. And again, this is almost too tight, but that's okay because I'm going to go in here now and just loosen it up a little bit. This is the wall of the fountain where the water's left in here, so I'm just going to go around. If you have questions, please ask them. If anybody's new here, ask away, and I will look up once in a while to see what your. Gosh, I gotta stop thinking of other colors. It's such a habit of mine to go and dip into other colors because that's what I do. Normally, I just dip into all the colors and grab certain colors. So, try it again. If you wanted to just squeeze out the two colors or the one color you want, and then maybe black or whatever, but just leave that separate so that you don't use any other colors. This is an assignment we used to do at the American Academy of Art, and the only thing different that he would make us do is that we do the same painting. And we do the same painting again and again and again 4 times because we go one time with one color, then 2 color, then 3 color, and by the end of the, it was like every day, or actually 1 day a week, and so at the end of the month we had done it, that same painting 4 times, and I don't want to put you through that, guys. If you want to try that, you go ahead, but I'm gonna pick out a new painting each time. It's kind of neat. It's kind of neat to see because what happens is that you can see how you take your 1 color and then switch it to a 2 color and then switch it to a 3 color, the same painting, but it gets kind of boring doing the same painting. I know a lot of people don't like doing that anyways, doing the same painting over and over again. Alright, and so we got that. So there's the fountain. See how much more contrast there is? And I'll look at this house back here. This is the shorefront house where they have all the boat rides out of there. And this is going to be dark, and so I'm going to put reflections of the water. The water's in the fountain, right? There's little reflections. That's the house right into this reflection. Now there are people in this picture. There's a little kid here with a scooter, which you barely see, and there's 2 people sitting on another little wall there. That's in the park, and so you can put that in if you want. You don't have to. It's up to you. I put them in. I drew them in there a little bit. You can see there's a scooter guy and the mom and dad. Again, you can put them in or not. It doesn't matter really. And so now I'm going to go do the top of the wall by negative painting it. I'm going to go right into these people. And again, over here it doesn't have to be super tight because I'm going to mess it all up with all of the water coming up. And so let me show you again. See how the water's going to be all through all that. So you don't have to make that so perfect in there because we're going to go through there and do a lot of that scraping. Okay, so let's see. This side there was a tree up here, but look, I got a watermark going in there, and it actually looks kind of nice. I'm gonna leave the watermark because it looks like the water's going down, and so that's a watermark. That means that was wetter than this surface area. There was also supposed to be a tree back here, but I'm gonna make that like kind of the tree. A little bit darker right here. Wipe that out. I noticed I didn't put tape on this today, which I normally do, but oh well. So here we go, a little bit of reflection again in the water. I don't want too many things white on this because if I have everything white all over, then the lightest spot, like where the sun is right here, will not look right. So I'm going to put a little wash over this. Just put a light wash, and I'm going to do it in a fashion where it's like I'm just doing really lightly over the top of the surface, getting the little texture right there. Alright, and then this will be the reflection of the sun shadow on the water from this part of the statue, the fountain. And so we'll just get this water back. I'm just going to wipe that out a little bit. Take my smaller brush, wipe out some of the light that I went in there. Got that kind of light there, or dark. Just going to put that in there. Now let's see if this is dry. Always use the back of your hands if you're checking your surface of the paper to see if it's dry, because that way you don't put any oils on your paper. So always check with the back of the hand, and that's pretty dry. Okay, so let's go right away into this building. Now this building, I put some of that right there, so I'm going to go right for the mediums and darks, but I'm going to do like detailed darks after. Remember, we always do light to mediums, then mediums to dark, and then the dark details. So basically 3 steps usually. Most paintings I do are 3 steps. And so going in here, any questions? Oh, I gotta get my glasses. Okay, let's see what what are we asking here? All right, Google has name of the fountain, Riviera Fountain. Okay. Fountain Inn? Or is that misspelling? So Riviera Fountain, guys. May I see the beer label? Love cider and peaches. Alright, so here's the label. The label is, whoa, almost poured the whole thing. Virtue Cider Fruit Belt Series. Michigan Hard Cider. Comes from Michigan, made with hand-picked heirloom Michigan apples. Wait, it's a peach cider and they pick apples. Right. And from Michigan, yeah, so Michigan. Virtue Cider. It's very good, by the way. Let me put some more in there. Cheers, everybody. Cheers, cheers, cheers. Will there be an additional layer where the salt may get in the way? No. The layer, once you do this, you probably do the salt when you're doing this whole section here, when you're doing the fountain when it's wet, because you can't, that salt won't work after this is dry unless you re-wet that. And so do the salt as you go along, and just every time you hit part of this area where it's dark, put the salt in, put the salt in, put the salt in. And then you can always layer, and when it's dry, the surface is dry, wipe the salt off, because then it won't corrode your paper. So, I mean, once it dissolves in there and does the thing, it's fine. But then take anything that's like left over and just rub it off the paper. You don't want extra salt left on there. And so take that off, and then you can do the again on the second wash, another wash, you can do it again. But I would suggest then the spatter, where you hit it with your pen. And we'll do a little bit of that, I'll show you. Let's get into this right now. Let's go into the background building. So I'm just going to go back up here. All right, another question. You're not doing light to dark, correct? Is there a best way to approach? Well, I am doing light to dark, back to front. I am kind of doing that. But since we're doing one color, if I put this in there, this is my darkest, this is not my darkest yet. We're getting to the darkest dark, even though this is probably not going to be any darker than that. So you can't put that because it's the foreground. But I always go light to dark. But in this case, if you need to put a dark in there right away, that's fine, because it's all one color. Where if you're using full color, a lot of times you really have to go that way so that the colors don't mix. Or here it doesn't matter if the colors mix together because we're always just using one color. And the darker you want to make it, just add black or just add the thicker part of that color. And so I'm just going in here. Because as you can see, I did the sky into the building so that these windows then, if they're a little bit darker, or if they're darker or lighter than the actual building, you could do that now on that first wash. So it did go light to dark. Now I still go light to dark, always light to dark. It's the correct way of doing it. Light to dark is always the best way. Again, because you can go through things and then cover it up with the darker as you go forward, and when you overlap things. I gotta remind myself to one day explain peacock, P-E-C-O-C. That's the way of dimensions in your watercolor. And so this looks really dark, but this is going to dry a little bit lighter. So this is not my darkest dark yet either. This is like middle tones. I know it looks really, really dark, but it's not. It's going to dry about 20% lighter. And I'm not going to this time, last time what I did in class, I made this lighter here because I thought that would be better for the water. But by doing that, I made it so that you couldn't see the water. So this time I'm making it dark. I'm just going to go in there with dark. And I'm not sure why I'm using a round brush for a rectangular shaped building. Always use I like using a flat brush for a rectangular building because it just makes sense. Like you make windows, walls, and you can hit corners with your brush and make them really, really sharp corners, where you can't really do that with a round brush because you have to make each corner pointy. So if it's good for pointy parts, but not good for sharp corners. See, like this, there's like a step right here. There's steps going up to this building, so like this, see how I'm getting hard edges? And with the raw brush, you have to go and create each one of those edges, each one of those 90-degree angles, where this is all nice and straight. So let's go back into black and again, this is more of the brown. It's not totally black yet. What I'll do is I'll go back in and create shapes in there and this will be the window. That I'm going to keep on. I'm going to keep that a little lighter so like there's a light on there. That'd be kind of neat to do. Even though it's not on, but I'm turning on the light to the place. And then right to this wall here. I'm going to go right up to the wall. And then since there's a light behind here, this wall will also be dark. And so again, I'm pretending like the water is not there yet. Before I made it look like there was water right away, but that didn't work so well, as you can see. See, remember, because this is not dark enough to look like water. It just looks like there's mist or something there. So, and it didn't give me the shape of the fountain. And so I'm getting all the shapes first, and then I'll go back in and I'll get the water afterwards. So now I'm gonna go in here. I keep on dipping in everything. Sorry. I try to use one color, but it's just my habit. My habit is always going to every color. So maybe that. Let's not put that in there. Well, why am I got a lot of reflections here today? It's been gone for so long now. I'm not sure why I'm getting all these reflections. I want to position my lights a little bit differently here. Hold on 1 second. What's going on here? Hopefully. Sorry about that. Just gonna have to hold it up, I guess. There we go. So now I'm going around the people, and when you're using one color, you're going to find that if you use a color that's very, that does a lot of, how do you call it, granulation. When you get granulation happening in here in this brown, it's really nice. I mean, you get a lot of granulation happening. Depending again on what colors you're using. Some browns and some colors granulate better than others. And granulating mean that the pigment separates and kind of goes into the crevices of the paper. And so that's kind of a good thing. It's really a fun thing, actually. I'm going to put this little shadow here too. Oh, spattered all over my sky. Here's a little shadow there. So I'm putting in there. See, when parts dry a little faster than other parts, you gotta watch out because then so we can get watermarks. But in something like this, it doesn't really matter as much. So see, I'm going around the people. I just went around the people, and I'll put them in there later. And they're gonna be very loosely put in, so I don't have to worry too much about exact. And they're so small. And then there's a little shadow here. I'm gonna put a little shadow here from this. From the sidewalk, and there's a little top of the rim of this fountain. You know, watch out. A lot of people in class didn't figure that this was the top of the rim right here, so there's a rim on the top of the fountain, and then there's the sidewalk. And again, I like to keep this stuff a little bit darker than the sky, and don't leave my white because I want to keep the white right there, so it really brightens everything else up. So if you got white somewhere else, you got to realize then it looks dull down like the sun. The sun should be the lightest, and these things shouldn't be as light as that. So here we have a little bit of the background. Hey Sonia, better late than never. It's fine. All right, and so now we go right into the angel, and so we just put her in there right away. I'm gonna get myself some new brushes. These are starting to wear out. I noticed that last week. These are starting to wear down. These are like 8, 9 years old, I think, and I've been using them a lot. And they still get a fine point, but I want to get some new brushes and get some really, really fine points. I'll probably do that this week when I go down to Canoga, Water Media Workshops. And so for that, I figure, hey, we're going to start a bunch of new stuff. It's like, I don't know if you've ever been to Canoga, to the new Canoga Water Media Workshop, it's a super fun time. It's just 300 artists. It's almost like art camp or spring break. We're all crazy artists and we're all having fun for 4 days. Usually it's 5 days, but this year it's only 4 days because of COVID. And so we're having 4 days of fun, painting, shows, eating, drinking, super fun time. And it's close to Asheville, North Carolina. So I'll be heading there with some friends, and we're just going to go down there and have some awesome time. And so another reason I can't do the thing next Thursday is because that's the closing ceremonies. And Mr. Joe Miller will be probably giving stuff away. And so it's a super fun time with a bunch of famous artists teaching. I'm not teaching this year. I taught there a couple of years ago. I'm just going because it's such a great time, and I'm going for a class which is called Paint with Friends, and I don't think there's much room left. I think there's maybe 2 or 3 things left. If you did want to go, but usually this packs in. It's like it's filled right from. It'll be filled, half filled before we leave this next week. So it's leave on Saturday, come back the following Friday. So again, I will not have a newsletter out there because we will be partying and spring breaking and camping. Did you say a while ago to use titanium white to keep wet on wet paintings from running wild? Yes, that was one of the reasons why I started using white paint. That's a very good, very good question, Emma. Is that when we use the reason I let you use white is if we're doing a big wash and you need to control that pigment. This pigment, if it's really wet, we can't control it if it's a really light color. But if you make it a light color with the white in it, and you can make the color that it would normally be with the white of the paper, you can then control the pigment. And so it's a lot easier to do it that way. So yes, you can use white, and yes, you can use black for this one color study. Because you're using white of the paper, so why not be able to use white of the pigment too? So it's all good, And you're using it for a reason. You're using it to enhance your painting by making it more controllable. You can control that pigment with white paint. You control it so that your light color, like let's say I put this color in there and make it white. See, it's going to change the color. It's going to be kind of like pastel-y. That's okay, because it would happen too on the white paper. If I'm rubbing it into the white paper, it would also give that same kind of color. Because the white paper is white, and so is white paint. It's the same thing. Now, it's not going to be as vibrant because the paper will absorb, and it's going to be very powerful color that you put down. So the white kind of makes it more of a pastel color. It kind of makes it creamy. You know, it's like milk, putting milk into something. Milk in your coffee. Your coffee is really dark, and then it gets a little bit of milk. And then it becomes creamy. I'm not sure if that's a great analogy, but that's all I got right now. And so here we go. Hey, Karen. And again, everybody's doing a great job with your last week with the boat, tugboat. That was awesome for those of you that have done it. Nice job, everybody. So now I'm going to go here and get my detail darks. So I'm ready for my detail darks and my lights, my detail darks and lights, because pretty much everything big. Oh, that's a detail too. Let me get my details, my medium details in these people. Because really the only thing you see on here is the back of them. Like their back is lit up and their face in front is not lit up. It's basically their back and things that are pointing upwards towards the sun. This is the sun right there. So think of it, what's the sun hitting? This side of their back, and then the front is not. So I'm just going to put a little bit of, make them simple. I'm not doing photorealism. I'm going in here and just give them a tinge of realism in there. So you can see that, that's enough. I mean, right now, can't you tell that the sun is hitting from that side? And you just get their back. Same thing with the little kid right here. We do the right side, we leave it light, and the back side, we keep it a little bit lighter than the background, so he sticks out from the background, and then you just make it look like he's in the foreground. Very simple. I just put everyone you know, sorry guys. Sorry. I came down with a cold right before I came back. It's been so warm and I've been not having a jacket. It's been like so beautiful here. Though since it started raining though. So we're gonna go right here. And let's put a little bit more dark here on this side of the wall again, just to show the wall off. Okay, now let's get the dark details in the back building here. Oh, let me do this right. I see this right here. I'm gonna put this little dark right there, and then center here. And I can make this all messy because I'm gonna be putting stuff over it, so that's really cool. You don't have to worry so much. And these little guys here, maybe put another little thing so you can see a little bit of like what their arm is doing compared to their pants, and then he's got the wheels on the bottom of his scooter. And again, that's really super detailed later. And so now, oh, I forgot the lamp. I got to do the lamp too. So let's do the small brush here for the lamp. I know it looks kind of weird that I don't have any of the water going yet. It was a little bit different from what I did when I did the one in class this afternoon. But I realized that you need to get all this stuff done so that you can put the stuff on top of it. And this probably should be a little bit darker so you can see it, but I think it'll be okay. So let's put a little lamps in there. Use paper towel. And this one I used a little bit more red. This one is not quite as red as that. See, this one I didn't add only a little bit of the red, and this one I added a little bit more. But why not? You know, something make it a little bit different. And always, usually, if you do it the second time, it always turns out better, anyways. I mean, because when you do it once, you know all the mistakes you made, and you just kind of revert to making them better the second time around. And okay, here. Any more questions, just let me know. And so I'm just going to bleed this away. I'm just going to make this, see how rough this is? It's really not super tight. I was thinking of making that white in there and make them light, but the sky is not dark enough to make that light, the light on there. And it really doesn't need to be on. Well, did I just make an angle in there? Oh boy, look at that's on an angle. So I'm going to turn this sideways just for a second and see if I can't make this nice and straight. Yeah, look at that angle I put on there. So make it bottom thickness, bottom a little bit thicker, and then we'll have a little straighter. There we go. All right, so are we ready for some water splashing up? Let me get this windows back here. That window, and then back here there are still a couple of things that are going to be solid black. I'm not using hardly any red, like the top of the roof here. And again, this is dark details, so I'm going to put them in there real quickly and not make them too detailed, just enough to show that's just a little bit different parts of it. See, I'm going to with the windows in there, and just going to let that bleed right into the other part. It's so low contrast that you don't really see hard shapes, which is what I don't want. I don't want you to see contrast there. And so there's going to be a little shape right there. Here we have a little bit of the corner. This is maybe a little window here. And it just comes down, and what else should I put here? Okay. Oh, there's the steps that goes down. Remember I said that I put the steps in? So that was one here, one there. That's not a step, it's a wall where there's steps behind that. So that's not really the steps, that's just a wall where the steps are behind it. This is a window. Maybe a door over here. All right, so that's good enough. And keep it at that. We're gonna do a little bit darker right here, but I want to keep this where the water will go down. So I'm gonna use white paint to actually drip it on the side of the thing this time. I know it's kind of cheating using the white paint, but hey, it's gonna look fine. Now to scrape, and I think we're ready to scrape, I use again a utility knife. And so what I do is I take the tip, and actually this tip is broken, so this is one of those that you break off the thing. So I'm gonna break off one of the. Okay, so now it's really sharp, and now I'm gonna cut it. So it's a super sharp. So what you want to do is take because the image, and basically what you want to do too is take another sheet of paper and kind of practice this first. You don't want to cut your paper up not knowing what it's going to do. So what you're going to do is take it really sharp and almost like a pen. You're just going to take and scrape. You're going to basically scrape the paint away. So let me just show you how I'm just going to scrape this. So in the dark right here, I just take the very tip, the very point of that, and I dig it right into the paper, and I just go and what happens is it bounces across the top of the surface because it's very rough. And so that's one way of getting the water. Now you can, like I said, put masking fluid on there at the beginning and then just wipe it all off now when it's dry. Again, that's so hard. I mean, there's so much to do there. And also just spattering, which I will do too. I'll spatter at the same time. So let's start on the most important ones, and I notice there's a bunch here. So and it all kind of shoots up to the top of this. This basically is shooting up water. It's not, the water doesn't start here and just drip down. It starts down here, and it all shoots up to the top here, and then drips down to there and there and there. But first we're gonna get these big ones, and maybe we should get some of those first, because let's do these first. Let me scrape some of these first, because this is like this. There are some dripping ones, and it'll give you practice too to kind of scrape downward. Now remember, you're ruining your paper. You're basically cutting into your paper. So if you don't like doing that, then just use white paint, and maybe even use acrylic if you need to. Make it a mixed media, I guess they would call it then. But that's up to you how you want to do it. And these are things that you have to figure out. Or did the salt work for you? I'm horrible at salt. And use the kosher salt if you are using the salt. It seems like the kosher salt, because it's bigger, works better. I've never had a really good luck with salting your painting and then having it give that crystal look. I'm not great with that. So this I find to be a pretty decent way of doing it. I'm going to take it down. I'm just going to start scraping long lines in here. And don't make each one the same. Just bring them down. See how it just kind of ruins the paper? But it makes it look like the water that pictures it the way it is. And it goes all the way up to here, but a couple of times I stop and I'm just going to throw some pigment in there. And it goes all the way up here. And then also look, like, how does it go? What's the angle? And don't stop. Don't, like, do this, or you're going like this. No, just go and just draw it all the way down. I know it's scary, and you could cut your paper in half, but it works. It works pretty well, actually. And then there's some here that kind of go in a little different direction right here. There's a little bit that goes like that, goes down. But what you don't want to do, and I saw a couple people doing this in class today, is just swipe it all around. No, each one of these has goes all the way up and hits up there. So don't stop. And don't just do a bunch of little things. And don't make them not straight. Don't make them curly. It doesn't happen like that. These are not moving like in Vegas where they move in the water. It's just straight up. It goes up there. Now take some that go this direction all the way to here. Look at that one. That one got really good there. Oh, I wipe my nose here a little. Got a little runny nose. Sorry, guys. So here's this stuff, and you're going to go down like this, and where it's running off this little bench right here, or the little fountain right there. That's fine too. I'm just letting it run off there a little bit, going straight down, like I did up here. You can make that go on. That's not that big a deal, but again, you can make your paper really rough, and you can take a paper towel across it, and it kind of rips the little pieces off, and so it'll be it's going to be very textury, your paper, but it looks kind of neat, doesn't it? I mean, it kind of looks like water. Best way I could find to do it. If you can find a different way to do it, that's fine. I found this to be the best way to make it look like that. And if you do it on hot press, I don't think you're going to get the little dots that you get, because it's hitting off the bumpiness of the paper. So I don't know if you can do this on hot press. So don't do it on hot press if you want to get this kind of texture. And I'm still going to take it where I'm going to do the spattering. I'm going to do some spattering too. Look at how nice that looks. Isn't that beautiful with the water coming up? And don't just rub it really lightly, because you're not going to scrape into the paper. You really have to scrape. Do you need to ground the light? Ground the light. I'm not sure what you're saying there, what you're asking. Do you need to ground the light? I'm not sure what you're asking there, Pam. Pamela, ask me again in a different way. I'm not sure what that means. Cold. Could you use the credit card to do that? No, you can't use a credit card to get this look, because you're basically ruining the paper. You're literally cutting into the paper. And with a credit card is good for when you're doing like rocks, because you're just taking the pigment off the surface. Here, I'm cutting back to the paper. I'm cutting back to the white of the paper. So I have to get the white of the paper, and you can't get that with a credit card. It's not sharp enough, because you're basically, like I say, you're ruining the paper. You're basically cutting into the paper, and you're pushing the paper, and it's bouncing across the surface. So that's how you're getting this. And I'll do a few more then, and I'll show you how else you can get it. And maybe with the salt, you can get that too. And I actually, this afternoon, I also used water. I just spat it, but it wasn't enough. It doesn't get back to the white of the paper. So you're trying to get back to the white of the paper, because basically these little pebbles and are all white. It's basically white, and it's shining in the sun. The sun is shining on each one of these little water droplets, and going to make it really bright. And see how I'm just going to go in here where I scrape it, you don't see anything. You really have to dig into the paper. Oh, okay. I see what you mean. Yeah, it is floating. Sorry about that. So I'll just bring it down. There we go. I was hoping to cover that up with more when I go with the thing, but okay, sorry, I didn't know what you meant. But yeah, I will definitely make that look like it's not floating. So there's about enough. I think I'm going to do some upwards. Because back here, and there's also, you don't have to really put in where the water's coming out of. Like there's this little tube down here where all the water's coming out, the pipe. It's right here. And I will put a little bit of this decorative stuff into the fountain. I can do that, like at the bottom of the fountain. But again, anything that's going to disturb this water, you don't want to do that. You know, because it's about the water. That's what makes this painting look so cool. Is that the water is so vibrant, it's just sparkling. You know, isn't that what you want? And so here, I'm going to do a couple of scrapings going up here. Again, right from here, it's go right up from the pipe up. And actually hold this like a pencil. And that's always the way, because that way you're like drawing it. You're basically drawing in this little white line. And definitely practice this. Do not do this on your painting if you don't know what you're doing, if you haven't tried it yet. Here, I'm going to do a couple of this up here. Up here, I really, look at that, oh my gosh, I went back to the paper completely. Since I have it so high up here, I'm going to have to do it on this side too. I almost don't like that, what I did over there. Excuse me for 1 second. There we go. Cheers, everybody. Cheers, cheers, cheers. Cheers to one color. Oh, that's good. All right, so now, last thing is spattering. So when you spatter, watch out for other parts of your paintings and your surroundings. Cover anything that you don't want covered or that you don't want spatter on. And so I'm going to take right over my little angel here and right over the building and the people. I don't want that to be all spattered up. I probably should put it on my screen up here so I don't get everything. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take, and for this you want to take your round brush. I found that the big brush is almost too big, and you want these to be small, small, small. And so I'm going to take pure white with my round brush, get rid of some of this dirt on this white right here. And you could also use a toothbrush. And actually I could do that too. To get the dots. Basically what you're trying to do is get dots. And sometimes a toothbrush is really good. I know Dale Popovich does that a lot, where he takes it and he puts it on his thumb and he just sprays it. That's fine. But excuse me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the white and do it away from the painting first on something else. So on your palette, see how that's too big? That's way too big. So a little bit less water. A little bit less water, and then again test it. Look at this great palette, isn't that great? Boy, I should just frame that. And then go on here. Oh, there we go, perfect. See how it's just filling in? And then where do I want some of this is right at the top here. I want to put a bunch of, like it's really bright, right? Where's my pointer? Let me show you guys. Hold on. So if I take my pointer here, right here, if you look at the pointer at the screen, right here I want it really light, and a couple places I want really light. Like so much that it's just so much splashing going on that it turns everything light. So I'm going to take it and direct it to those spots. So right here I'm just going to take it sideways. I'm just going to take in a lot of dots in there. And so I'm hitting one brush against the other one. And I'm making really small dots. And up here I want the same thing. Hold that up a little bit higher. It can be a little bit right into her, bottom of her. And kind of directing those dots to be right there. See how little those dots are and how it's just all filling in right there? You just keep on filling in there. That's fine. You can have fun. And yes, this is opaque. It's okay. And especially right here, it's okay because it's blurring. And that's going to be that. Look how much stuff is in the picture. I mean, it's so much dots. I'll just keep on. Again, not too wet. Too wet makes it too big, the dots. Test it. See how nice and little that is? So you go in here and just go crazy. And cover up your other spots. Don't let everything be, because you'd have everything everywhere. Let's take this off of there. And look at how nice. All the water, sparkling water. Here we go. And what else? Let me do a little bit of detail on this little family over here. And I think we're done, guys. Boy, we got done early today. And again, it's a one color. And this still looks like it's floating, right, Pamela? This still looks like it's floating, and it's sideways too. So I'm going to take and ground this a little bit here. The white, because it's wet, so that it just distributed throughout there. And let's do these, just a little bit more detail in these people. Not much, just enough to, again, make it look so you know what they're doing, kind of thing. He's just, or he is, got a little scooter here. Put the little scooter on there, put the little wheels on it. Just enough here, maybe just a little bit to see that he's just sitting there. And let's see. Again, it's a gesture. It's just a gesture of people, not very detailed. I don't need to have it detailed. You know they're people, and it's not so much about them completely. It's about this fountain, and they just happen to be there, a secondary interest. And do you guys see anything else? Let's see, like she's got a beard. Let's see, let's give her a little chin here. I'm not going to make it super detailed, the head. She looks like a Disney character. There we go. The wing. I could put a little bit of light where the sun is right there, but it's a one color, so I'm not going to do that. Alright, and here the neck is a little bit darker. Hair a little bit darker. Alright, you guys see anything? Tina? The lamppost appears to be, okay, we said that already. Lamp. I think that's it, guys. So definitely much better than the first one I did this afternoon. If you take a look, this one, you always learn from the first one. This one was more grays. It's not bad, but again, see how this one, the detail of the people was not as good, and also this now shows the water a little bit better here. See how the water comes over here? So just a little bit better. The second one usually is. Also is a little bit bigger because I used the pad. And so any last questions? I missed the beginning where you mentioned the color you used. I know we can use the color we want, but this color is so rich. Actually, the color, thanks for asking, the color that I used it's called a light red. It's more like a terracotta. Again, it's this color right here. It's a reddish burnt orange kind of color. But then again, I use black to darken it. So remember, you can darken it with black, and I have no problem with that because it makes it all dark. Otherwise, I couldn't have gotten this color without black, getting this dark. And so even here, and actually, I think, get this. I just noticed now. One more thing. Right here in the fountain, it was a little bit darker on the edges here. So I'm just going to make that a little bit darker. And there we go, guys. So next week, take a break. Celebrate spring break and head out to wherever you're at and go ahead and paint. If you're going to be in Cayuga, I'll see you there, and we'll have some real good times. And we will see you in the following week, and we'll do two colors for the following week when I get back. Not next week. We're not doing two colors. If you want to do another image that you would take and do one color with, show me on my Facebook group page. And after that, we will see you, don't know what date it is, but not next week, the week after. All right, guys? So until then, we will see you in a couple weeks. Have fun. Have a great spring break if you're on spring break. All right? See you guys later. Bye-bye.